Hello and welcome to this special coverage on economic survey and what to expect from Union Budget 2025. ये है आपका बजट presented by State Bank of India और आज के मेरे बहुत ही खास मेहमान मेरे साथ जुड़ चुके हैं Mr. Prasenjit K Basu. He is an independent economist. Very good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for taking out time on such a eventful and a tough day too. Sir, Indian economy की बात करें तो FY25 में it is being projected at 6.4%, way below what government expected initially, way below what RBI expected. 7 से घटा के उन्होंने 6.6 कर दिया था, उससे भी नीचे आने की उम्मीद है. और अगर हम FY26 की बात करें जो GDP के अनुमान लगाए जा रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में वो 6.3% से लेके 6.8% है. Your first reaction to the numbers as far as the GDP is concerned, sir?
Well, with regard to this year, the first half of this year saw a significant deceleration. 5.4% growth in the second quarter, 6% for the first half of the year. So, decelerated from 6.7 in the first quarter to 5.4 in the second. In the second half, we should see some improvement. The global PMIs for manufacturing are improving. India's manufacturing PMIs are improving too. And there should be a significant boost to rural consumption, particularly from a very strong Kharif harvest. So the second half should be better. With regard to next year, I think the numbers are rather conservative. I think we can do a lot better. And the key reason, in my view, is that there was a very delayed rate cut. In fact, no rate cut at all so far.
Right.
And I think that was a big policy error that has had a negative impact on corporate earnings. It's had a negative impact on investment spending. So all of that, I think, will turn around starting from next week when we should see the first rate cut. And so next year, I think growth should be closer to 7.5% to 8%.
Okay.
Anything below 8%, in my view, is too little for India. India should be looking at 8% as almost a minimum.
मिस्टर बसु, आपने कहा कि इंडिया को 8% की ग्रोथ से बढ़ना ज़रूरी है बिकॉज अगर हमको एक डेवलप्ड नेशन बनना है 2047 तक तो हमें 8% के ग्रोथ रेट से तो बढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. बट आपको क्या लगता है कौन से स्टेप्स ऐसे हैं जो सरकार ले सकती है कल के बजट में, यानी कि Feb 1 को हमारी वित्त मंत्री बजट पेश करेंगी पार्लियामेंट में, तो any major steps that you expect from the budget this time as far as boosting consumption, क्योंकि consumption एक बड़ी कहानी रही है, बड़ी स्टोरी रही है पिछले 6 महीनों में. There has been a shortfall in growth because of the urban consumption fading out. Rural consumption में कुछ buoyancy देखने को मिली है. ऐसे में आपको क्या लगता है कि बजट किस डायरेक्शन में हो सकता है? What are you getting from the economic survey as of now?
Well, what is clear is that there needs to be an improvement in domestic demand in both consumption and investment. And with regard to consumption, I think a reduction in the whole structure of personal income tax would be helpful. We also, I think, are likely to see substantial steps to provide incentives for SMEs to MSMEs, essentially to do two things. One, to grow. And I think the ceilings for what is defined as an MSME should be raised in terms of the priority sector lending.
Okay.
So that there is no constraint on rapid growth of that sector. In particular, we need to see labor-intensive manufacturing pick up a lot. So I think the PLI will be expanded to include things like textiles, garments, shoes, toys, and processed food. Basically, if you look at India's structure of employment, just over 13 million people are employed in labor-intensive manufacturing. That needs to go up to 100 million. We have about 230 million people employed in agriculture. They need to be moving onto other sectors. I think services will continue to absorb 4 or 5 million every year. We'll see some absorption by construction, but ultimately you need manufacturing to start significantly employing many, many more people. And that can happen through labor-intensive manufacturing. So I think there'll be incentives for labor-intensive manufacturing. PLI will be extended to that sector. There'll be other incentives to try and boost that segment. And of course, the high-tech set, you basically are going to see some steps to provide additional benefits to things like semiconductors, the ecosystem of semiconductors, artificial intelligence. I think those are the sorts of areas that India needs to continue to keep an eye on, especially given the global backdrop.
सर आप आपने अभी कहा कि जो टैक्स कलेक्शन एज फार एज द कॉर्पोरेट्स आर कंसर्न्ड दैट हैज वहाँ पे कुछ ज़्यादा वृद्धि देखने को नहीं मिली. नॉन टैक्स रेवेन्यूज़ का भी वही हाल है. इनकम टैक्स का बेस बढ़ गया है, उसके चलते हुए इनकम टैक्स कलेक्शंस काफ़ी बॉयंट रहे हैं और बॉयंट रहने की संभावना भी है. और ये माना जा रहा है कि इस बार मिडिल क्लास को कुछ ना कुछ दिया जाएगा बेस्ड ऑन दिस. बट अगर रिसोर्स साइड देखें तो हम काफ़ी कंस्ट्रेंट है. हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट द गवर्नमेंट टू डील विद द expenditures like capex 11.11 lakh crore का capex estimated for FY 25 लेकिन क्योंकि इलेक्शन ईयर था कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर सरकार की तरफ से नहीं हुआ, वो डिले हो गया. ये फिगर कितना हो सकता है और केपेक्स ग्रोथ की कितनी अनाउंसमेंट्स हो सकती है और एक्सपेंडिचर को सरकार कैसे मीट करेगी? बिकॉज आपने इंसेंटिव्स की बात की, इंसेंटिव्स के लिए पैसे भी तो चाहिए.
पैसे काफ़ी है, क्योंकि अगर आप देखें तो आपने भी कहा कि पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स रेवेन्यू has been very buoyant, and in fact it has been buoyant now for 4 years. Growth has not been below 20% in a single year. This in the latest 12 months, growth is nearly 30%. The latest 12 months for which we have data until November, growth is nearly 30% in personal income tax. If you look at central GST revenues, they are up nearly 15% in the latest 12 months, and customs revenues are up around 12%. So the only exception is corporate tax revenue, which is actually down in the latest 12 months, slightly down by minus 0.5%. That is a worry. I think that is a reflection of the fact that corporates are suffering from high real interest rates. If you look at core inflation, it's been below 4% for 13 months, and yet there's been no rate cut. I think that's a big policy error. That needs to be addressed soon. And at the same time, with regard to spending, capital expenditure is not a big item. But we should have at least 20% growth in capex for the center and states together. 20 to 25% minimum growth is essential. But really, there also needs to be some incentives for private investment to pick up. And in order for that to happen, the fiscal deficit target should be more ambitious. I think having a glide path of 0.5% of GDP reduction every year is fine, but it is not ambitious enough. I hope, I don't think it'll happen, but I hope to see a reduction of 1 percentage point. Next year's target should be 3.9%, so that there is a significant reduction in the fiscal deficit that crowds in private investment. Now, one way to do it is privatization. Aggressive privatization of the sort that Nirmala Sitharaman talked about 4 years ago.
True.
She has not followed through with it. The only thing that has happened is Air India and 2 small steel companies.
Right.
But you just look, Hindustan Zinc, 1.6% of Hindustan Zinc's shares were sold to the public in November, just 2 months ago. And they fetched about 3 times what the government received when it sold 45% of Hindustan Zinc in 2002, 22 years ago. So that, that privatization, that I think just reflects there's a 126-fold improvement in the valuation of Hindustan Zinc since it was privatized 22 years ago. In 22 years ago, just listen to this, 126-fold increase. Now, so that I think it just tells you how you can unlock the value and the efficiency that is locked up in public sector enterprises. If the public sector enterprises can start being privatized, then you can really begin to see a substantial, rapid reduction in the fiscal deficit, efficiency gains, and if government is still a minority shareholder, it'll receive dividends, and it will see capital gains, so that in the future it'll be able to sell them for even better. So privatization has to be a new mantra. I don't think it'll be in the budget. I can see that the government has become jaded, but in the future, this needs to be talked about as something that the government needs to get back to doing. And in the early years of a 5-year term, this is the time to do it.
डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट टारगेट अगर हम FY25 के लिए देखें तो 50,000 करोड़ का रखा गया था. They have been missing this target from last couple of years, so many years now. I think 50,000 करोड़ में से 10,000 करोड़ के आसपास का डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट रेवेन्यू FY20 में हो सकता है. It's just a rough estimate.
No, it'll be around maybe 15 to 20,000 crores. But the main thing is that disinvestment of small bits like this is not the real story. The real story has to be privatization. Now, where the government is benefiting is that it is getting very good dividends. So it's getting dividends from RBI, it's getting dividends from the state-owned banks, it is getting dividends. So it's fine. So it thinks that, since I'm getting dividend and the dividend revenues are very good, we don't really need to privatize. But actually, if you privatize, you'll get even better dividends. You'll get much better dividends, and you'll be able to sell the stocks later, the smaller shareholding that you have, you'll be able to sell it at more than what you sold the large amounts to at the time of privatization. Because privatization actually unlocks value. And it is, when the private sector buys, they compete hard.
Right.
They don't overbid. If the price is too high, they will walk away. But they will bid only at a price at which they'll be able to unlock value for their other shareholders in the future and for themselves. And if they do that, then you can get substantial benefits. So I think what we need is privatization. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll get it this time. But I just need to remind Nirmala ji of what she said 4 years ago. If she just acts on what she said 4 years ago, privatizing everything. Remember, she said, I'll privatize everything.
Right. Even
except
banks.
in 4 sectors. Except in 4 sectors, 4 strategic sectors, where we will keep a few, but still privatize the others.
Right.
So, so in effect, she is saying that she's going to privatize everything, but we've done nothing. That is the other, so privatization is the missed opportunity under this government.
बसु सर, आपने कहा कि आरबीआई से जो डिविडेंड मिला है, आई थिंक उसने बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले किया है. 2 लाख करोड़ से ज़्यादा का डिविडेंड FY25 में, लेकिन FY26 में संभावित ये है कि डिविडेंड कम हो जाएगा. यहाँ पे भी थोड़ी कटौती रेवेन्यू साइड पे देखने को मिलेगी. एज यू सेड,
क्यों आप क्यों सोच रहे हैं कि कम होगी? देखिए, बात यह है कि अगर रुपी डिप्रिशिएट करता तो क्या होता है कि रुपी डिप्रिशिएट कर रहा है, ठीक है, तो एसेट जो है, द मेन एसेट ऑन द आरबीआई बैलेंस शीट इज net foreign assets. Now the net foreign assets earn dollars, they earn in dollars and euros and so on, but but it is reported in rupees. So as the rupee depreciates, you automatically get more profits there.
Right.
That's one. Second thing is that you are earning still high interest rates. So those high interest rates on US assets will give you more than you're paying out. You see, the main liability of a central bank is notes and coins in circulation, on which there is no interest rate paid out, right? It is interest free.
Right.
So liability is interest free. The asset is earning interest, and it is, the rupee is depreciating. That means the value of the foreign holdings are going up in rupee terms.
True.
So therefore, you make a lot of, so central bank makes profit. This is simple. Now, if the US starts cutting rates aggressively and the world sees a big reduction in rates and the foreign currency assets earn low interest rates, then next year it is possible. Next year, not this year.
Okay.
But that is for next year's budget. Next year it is possible that in 26 we will see a lower dividend by RBI. This year's dividend is going to be higher than last year.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. And this year's dividend is announced in May and paid out in August. So basically, for the next fiscal year, we're taken care of. The dividend payment from RBI is going to be higher.
Okay. Fiscal deficit का आपने सर कहा कि आप चाहते हैं कि 3.9% FY26 का रखा जाए. FY25 projected at 4.9%. Where do you expect this number to be? And if we have to get to that 3.9% level, it's really going to be tough because हमें हमारी growth को पटरी पे भी तो लाना है सर.
देखिए आसान है मेरे ख्याल में. अगर 3.9 पे आना है तो एक चीज करना पड़ेगा, वो प्राइवेटाइजेशन करना पड़ेगा. तो अगर आप प्राइवेटाइजेशन में ध्यान दें तो आसानी से हो जाएगा कि आप 3.9 से भी कम डेफिसिट बना सकेंगे. क्योंकि प्राइवेटाइजेशन, द पोटेंशियल रेवेन्यूज, अगर आप देखिए ना, LIC, only 3.5% of LIC has been listed.
Right.
But by 2027 May, that has to reach at least 10% according to SEBI regulations. SEBI requires you have to have 10%. If they are to comply with MSCI, they must, if the stock is to be included in the MSCI benchmark index, then you should be somewhere between 15 and 25%, preferably 25% free float. So at a minimum, the regulations require you to do secondary and tertiary listings of LIC in the next 2 years. Why not do it quickly?
Okay.
Now, see, the opportunity to do it is when the markets are buoyant. When the markets are less buoyant, it'll be more difficult. So I think this is a big opportunity lost, not doing the LIC transaction in full. 3.5% is neither here nor there. When we talked first about LIC, most people expected that it would be among the 2 or 3 largest market cap stocks in India. Do you know where it is now? It is the 10th largest stock.
Right.
It is the 10th largest by market cap because you have not listed it properly. You have only listed 3.5%. So it's not on any benchmark. Nobody needs to hold it.
Right.
And therefore, it's neither here nor there. If you're going to list a big company like Life Insurance Corporation of India, it is a company that every Indian knows about because they have some relationship with it. List it properly, give it a proper free float so that it can find its real value and the government also gets significant revenue. So it's simple. So just LIC alone can do a lot of the job. If you increase the free float from 3.5% to 15% in the next 12 months, that stock alone, you might not get as good a value immediately. You see, because the thing is that this stock has done poorly. There's no need for anyone to hold it. But if you say that I'm going to do 11.5% of the holdings are going to be are now going to be listed in the secondary listing, then that alone will take care of a humongous amount of disinvestment revenue. Just one stock. So basically, privatization must get back onto the agenda. It's simple.
I hope it gets back. Sir, जो growth हमने first half में देखी है FY25 के, it's driven by agriculture and services sector. Manufacturing growth has moderated once again. यहाँ तो हम बड़ी-बड़ी बातें करते हैं कि हमको देश को एक export hub बनाना है, manufacturing base बनाना है, लेकिन manufacturing ही pick up नहीं करती. So, do you expect some kind of a push to manufacturing sector in the budget tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the PLI scheme is there, which is already providing some benefits to some of the major new export hubs, such as electronics. Electronics is doing very well. Engineering goods, if you look at this year, engineering goods exports are up about 7 or 8% in the fiscal year to date. So, and garments are beginning to pick up. So really, I think garments and textiles are the area that can really pick up a lot of steam. In areas like steel, aluminium, etc., we need to protect the economy from dumping from China. China has huge overcapacity, and it is dumping its overcapacity wherever it can. And India is a neighbor, so it's very easy for them to get to dump their excess capacity into India.
Okay.
But India is the second biggest producer of steel in the world, aluminium, cement. It is the fourth largest producer of cars in the world. So we are a substantial manufacturing power. People don't realize that we are a substantial manufacturing power. We're the fourth largest oil refiner in the world. So we have a substantial, diversified manufacturing sector. And the idea is that we have to guard against dumping from China, and at the same time find ways of massively expanding manufactured exports. So incentives are required for that to happen. Manufactured exports need to pick up, and the MSME is of course a big part of that. But really, the MSMEs need to be able to expand and achieve scale economies by employing tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. At the moment, all our exporters have at most 3,000 people in a factory. So you are prevented from achieving the economies of scale.
Right.
You can't just do Tirupur. Tirupur should have big manufacturing factories, not just little MSMEs doing small scale manufacturing. If they achieve scale economies, and now there's a huge opportunity because Bangladesh, second biggest garment exporter in the world, is falling apart. Bangladesh is falling apart. The President of the United States personally dislikes Muhammad Yunus, the chief advisor of Bangladesh, who came in via a coup. So not only that, you look at Desh Garments, Beximco, most of the large exporters from Bangladesh are now, the companies that they head, the chief executives, number 1 or 2, most of them have been jailed because they are seen as Hasina's people. If that is the case, then we should encourage them to come and invest in our states. Come and put up capacity in West Bengal and Bihar and Orissa and Assam, right next to Bangladesh, and perhaps even Meghalaya and Manipur, and expand that and export from India and garner global market share.
करेक्ट सर. एक आखिरी सवाल आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी. तो 3 बड़ी बातें जो आप कल के बजट में देखना चाहेंगे. 3 focus areas for the budget 2025-26.
So I would like to see a reduction in the whole gamut of personal income tax rates. That's one. Second is, in order to boost consumption. Second, I would like to see, since GST cannot be touched, GST has to go to the GST Council, so you cannot have any change there. In terms of expenditure, I would like to see an expansion of the PLIs, particularly to take into account the labor-intensive manufacturing sector. And as a corollary to that, the implementation of the new labor laws, the new labor codes that were passed 4 years ago, they really need to be notified and accepted. And the third thing is what I talked about, privatization. Put privatization back on the agenda as a big agenda item, because that has the solution to a lot of things going forward.
Mr. Basu, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आज प्रोग्राम में शामिल होने के लिए. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate your coming to this program and sharing your views on what to expect from the budget tomorrow. हम चाहेंगे कि बजट के बाद एक बार आपसे फिर बातचीत करें और देखें कि बजट में क्या हुआ है और क्या आपको पसंद है, क्या आपको पसंद नहीं है. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
तो प्रोग्राम को यही समाप्त करते हैं. अब इकोनॉमिक सर्वे तो आ चुका है, बजट का इंतजार है. बड़ी बातें जो मिस्टर बसु ने कही है कि इनकम टैक्स के दरों में बदलाव होना चाहिए, कुछ रिलीफ मिडिल क्लास को मिलना चाहिए, डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट टारगेट्स जो है वो प्राइवेटाइजेशन जो है सरकार को उस पर जोर देना चाहिए, बूस्ट फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर. सो ये कुछ बड़ी बातें जो है आज के हमारे इंटरेक्शन से निकल के आ रही है. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग एंड कीप वॉचिंग जागरण बिजनेस.